Discover how this incredible grandma's hidden strengths transformed her life in 30 days. Evelyn sat on the edge of her worn, floral-print sofa, the scent of lingering cinnamon from last week's pie still faint in the air. Since Harold passed, she often found herself in this stillness, wrestling with a new kind of loneliness that felt almost too heavy to bear. Family gatherings had turned from lively affairs filled with laughter to muted conversations that echoed off the walls. The weight of his absence gnawed at her, transforming what once was a vibrant household into a hollow shell that reflected bits of her own forgotten dreams. A flicker of movement pulled her from darkness. It was Lily, her spirited granddaughter, bursting in like a breath of spring. "Grandma! You've got to try this art class!" she exclaimed, eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. The suggestion hit Evelyn's heart with an unexpected pang. Could she really pick up a brush again? Memories washed over her, late nights cluttered with vibrant paints and a canvas alive with color. That was decades ago. A lifetime of sacrifice would have to be pulled back like a stubborn wire. The thought trembled in her gut. Despite her fears, she found herself enrolled. The first evening weighed on her like an anchor. Younger students whispered, brows raised as they eyed the elderly newcomer. They were here to dream, to grow, not to carry a grandchild's legacy. Doubt crept in, threatening to choke her enthusiasm. What was she doing here? Confronted by fresh-faced artists armed with skill and self-assuredness, Evelyn felt the suffocating grip of inadequacy. A wave of panic coursed through her as she struggled to handle the paintbrush, her fingers shaking and her mind racing, lost between ambition and nagging worry. Before long, her instructor, Marco, a dynamic figure with an infectious passion for art, spotted her hesitation. "Evelyn, I see something special in you," he encouraged. His words ignited a tiny flame of hope, but with half her heart rooted in doubts, could she really reclaim her passion? She poured herself into the canvas with renewed vigor, letting vibrant colors flow, yet every stroke came with the haunting reminder of her husband's laughter. Yet the picture-perfect illusion shattered the moment she received the news of her daughter's sudden illness. Tension crackled in the aftershock. Evelyn's new dream felt trivial now. Torn between her commitment to a budding artistry and the urgent call of caregiving for her daughter, panic churned within her. What kind of mother was she, focusing on her dreams while her family's needs surged forward like an unstoppable wave? Days blurred. The competition loomed, and Evelyn stood before her easel, wrestling with heavy guilt. Each brushstroke felt selfish under the straining weight of duty and sacrifice. Anxiety gripped her. Was it fair to dream while her daughter grappled with her own struggles? Crippling thoughts churned within her: humiliation, abandonment, shame, all drowning out her artistic impulses. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Clutching the brush, Evelyn felt the colors scream for release, yet her stomach twisted in knots. Was she walking a path toward fulfillment, or unleashing further chaos on her already tumultuous family dynamics? The canvas bore witness to her inner turmoil, capturing the fragmented essence of a woman standing at a precarious crossroad. The moment of choice danced tantalizingly before her, to challenge the suffocating expectations or remain bound by familial obligation. As the competition approached, the artistic world beckoned, yet every prospect filled her with panic. In the depths of her soul, a war raged on, leaving her teetering on the edge. Could she dare to claim her aspirations, or would she let her daughter's needs swallow her whole? In the dim light of her cluttered studio, confronted by her desperate need for self-expression, Evelyn braced herself for the confrontation of a lifetime, the culmination of her fears, the question hanging like an unspoken promise in the air: was it finally time to bloom? Evelyn's heart beat like a drum in the silence, mirroring the stroke of the brush against the canvas. Shadows from the window danced across the room as sunlight waned, streaked with vibrant reds and soft gentle blues. She had once thrived under such light, a vibrant artist with dreams larger than life itself. Yet there she stood, gripped by the fear of failure and melded into moments of creative paralysis. The competition was a week away, but the only thing Evelyn had produced was a restless cascade of half-finished canvases, each one echoing the contradictions that churned within her. Deep down, she knew she had not only dark strokes to offer the canvas but vibrant hues of a life rediscovered, yet the fear of exposing them gripped her tighter every day. Her fingers often itched to create, but guilt coiled around that impulse, stifling her voice like an unwanted ghost of her past. Maybe I could take care of myself, a little, she thought, the quiet query invading her tortured thoughts. The question flitted through her mind like a distant echo, met with resistance from her subconscious. A selfish pursuit, it suggested. Torn hands gripped the brush, transforming anger into something tangible, creating a sharp line across the canvas that mirrored the tension in her heart. Lily showed up unexpectedly at the door the following day, animated and full of life. "Grandma, can I see what you've been working on?" she asked, a brilliantly innocent hope sparkling in her eyes. Evelyn's pulse quickened and she looked around at the scattered paintings, each a reminder of her internal struggle. Just a few things," Evelyn said, hesitating. "No. I want to see," insisted Lily, pushing past her into the studio, her spirit the perfect antidote to Evelyn's uncertainty. When Lily reached the canvases, she gasped and pointed to a mixture of color that struck Evelyn as chaotic and confused. "This one. I love it. It feels alive." In that moment, Evelyn felt a flicker of validation, a whisper that perhaps there was something worthwhile in the chaos. It made her freeze, arrested by Lily's unexpected enthusiasm. "But it's out all over the place. I'm not sure it's what I want to present," she murmured defensively. "Does what you want matter? Look at how you made it. It's you, Grandma." Lily beamed, and the sincerity hit Evelyn like a jolt of electricity. Could she truly disregard the weight of expectation? Could she paint for herself rather than for the judges or her family, allowing her artistry to be an authentic reflection of her journey rather than a somber account of loss? This question unfurled layers of guilt previously unaddressed, but it also illuminated a path she wasn't prepared to navigate just yet. Feeling a sudden rush of defiance, Evelyn shook off the guilt that had clung to her like a heavy shroud. She confronted her canvas, channeling her emotions as she allowed colors to bleed and swirl together. Each brushstroke boiled with turbulence, yet as it surfaced, Evelyn recognized it as part of her truth, embracing the merge of grief and rediscovery. The canvas erupted into bursts of raw expression, masked in abstraction but delivered in authenticity. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting elongated shadows in the studio, she jotted down a note on her sketchbook. "What do I want?" It was a question uncharacteristically selfish, challenging her to unravel the decades in which she masked her desires and dreams unused and unacknowledged. With renewed determination percolating within her, Evelyn understood the next step involved not only the expression of her artistry but also a reassessment of her priorities. The time had come to expose her raw fears and desires publicly, not just for herself, but for the sake of her family. As the competition date loomed closer, a realization dawned on her: the act of creating wasn't mere self-indulgence, it was a gift she could share, not only to reclaim herself but to inspire others. With a resolve she hadn't felt in years, Evelyn prepared to face not just her canvas, but the very essence of her conflicting identities. And as she finished her work for the night, the question lingered in the air like an unsung melody: would she dare to present her truth and confront the expectations waiting on the other side? The morning sun crept delicately through the sheer curtains, illuminating the workshop like a sacred space for ideas and reflections. Evelyn sat down with her sketchbook, the weight of her recent realizations still fresh on her mind. Today felt different. The heaviness that had once surrounded her like an impenetrable fog began to dissipate, replaced by a flickering sense of purpose. Her heart raced as she considered the idea of unveiling her true self through art. What if she pushed herself further than just addressing her fears? What if she could transform those anxieties into something powerful, something that could resonate with others? With a newfound clarity, she decided to devote her time to introspection. Each creation would now be a tribute not only to her struggles but also to her resilience. She pulled an old canvas from the corner, the colors faded and chipped. This felt like a metaphor for her emotional landscape, a mixture of the past and the persistent longing to renew herself. As she primed the surface with fresh paint, a realization washed over her: renewal begins with acknowledgement. She embraced the imperfections in both her work and her life, letting them swirl into the picture. As she began to paint, each stroke took on the intensity of a memory, a lesson learned the hard way. The tightness in her chest loosened with each challenge. She accepted the fear of judgment, the sting of disappointment, the weight of unrealized potential. Evelyn realized these weren't just burdens, they were the threads woven into the fabric of her rediscovered self. Hours passed, and her focus grew sharper. It felt like every hue conveyed part of her story. The reds pulsed with passion, the blues whispered comfort, and greens emerged with hope. Evelyn began to see that her tumultuous emotions could represent strength rather than frailty. Each session transformed into a personal ritual, an exploration of her psyche laid bare on the canvas. Her confidence simmered gently, but like boiling water, there was a promise of release if she allowed it. It became clear that her creations wouldn't just be works of expression. They would serve as tangible milestones along her journey of self-acceptance. As she stepped back to view her progress, she noted the layers she had created. Chaotic brushes that had once screamed uncertainty now spoke of evolution. "What do I want?" echoed anew in her mind, this time accompanied by another question: what do I have to offer? That afternoon, as she cleaned her brushes, a flurry of excitement washed over her at the thought of the competition. While part of her still shivered at the thought of exposure, another part lit up with eagerness. Her art could invite conversations, spark connections, challenge others to confront their own realities. Evelyn spent the next few days preparing, painting with fervor, reworking pieces until they felt authentic. She decided to present her emotional journey, the very essence of who she had become, revealed in layers upon layers. Adrenaline surged alongside anticipation, turning her fear into something palpable, something to be shared. But the night before the exhibition, doubt clawed at her once more. What if they didn't understand? What if they dismissed her truth? It tempted her to retreat into the shadows where she once felt safe. But then she remembered Lily's gleeful proclamation that her chaotic piece was alive. Perhaps, the life within her work was worth the risk. In that moment of clarity, Evelyn understood, she could control the narrative of her journey. She would capture those universal threads that bind humanity: loss, vulnerability, hope, daring to reveal her inner self. As evening set in and silence enveloped the studio, she felt an overwhelming urge to pour out her heart onto one last canvas, one that would encapsulate her entire transformation. Just as she began to paint, her fingers trembling against the brush, she found herself questioning if she truly had the courage to face her audience. Was she ready to share this part of herself with the world? With each stroke filling the canvas, tension mounted. Her answer eluded her just as the competition loomed nearby. Would she succumb to the fear of exposure or embrace the opportunity to connect? Evelyn inhaled deeply, her fingers poised, ready to dive into the unknown as doubt orchestrated its final act. Would this be the night she unveiled the depths of her soul? The brush quivered slightly in Evelyn's grip, the paint swirling on the canvas waiting for her to make a decision. She felt herself caught in an intense internal battle, a clash between the artist yearning for authenticity and the woman afraid of judgment. Was she brave enough to strip away the layers constructed to shield her from the world? With a deep inhale, she dipped her brush into the vibrant cerulean, the blue reflecting both calmness and the tension embodied in her heart. Each stroke resonated with part of her story, a soft whisper of triumph intermingled with the catastrophic echoes of self-doubt. How many years had she painted over her true feelings, concealing them behind artistic facades that were palatable to others? The realization struck her that vulnerability was truly where her strength lay. She grinned at the thought, a flicker of rebellion igniting within. What if exposing herself, flaws and all, created the very connection she so desperately craved? With renewed vigor, Evelyn worked the brush against the canvas, letting her emotions explode from her heart. The colors danced to life, the yellow sparkled with joy, while the deep indigos captured her sorrow, forming a chaotic yet beautiful amalgamation. She was building a visual dialogue, one that screamed to be heard. The brushes became an extension of her will, each stroke was an invitation to explore the very fabric of her existence. The studio, once a solitary sanctuary, vibrated with an energetic pulse of anticipation. Lost in this fervor, time vanished. Hours disintegrated into mere moments until the canvas presented itself, raw and uncovered, a testament to her struggles. As she stepped back to evaluate her creation, a shudder cascaded through her. This piece was filled with more than paint, it embodied her resilience, her uphill battles, and the courage to confront her fears. Though the tangible result was tangible, it also solidified the intangible transformation pulsing within. But a stark realization hit her: showcasing this piece would offer more than just her story. It would evoke answers from others, forces them to grapple with their stories. With exhilaration rippling through her, she envisioned her work acting as a mirror, reflecting their truths back to them. Yet, that same exhilaration turned to trepidation. What if she was wrong? What if they ridiculed her instead? A sudden push of steel determination surged through her. Doubt had been a constant companion, but it was time to unseat its throne. "This is for me," she whispered with fierce sincerity into the empty studio. "What I provide is a connection to the raw, human experience." The air crackled with the weight of her decision. This feeling was more than courage, it was liberation. With the dawn of the competition pressing ever closer, Evelyn's resolve burned brighter. She would not be a passive participant in her own life, she would step into the light, fully present and undeniably herself. Yet as the night deepened, she sat with her thoughts, analyzing their depth. Was she truly ready for all this? The fear was real and formidable, but so was her growth. The thought of her audience's scrutiny loomed large, casting a shadow over her heart. Yet, seated upon the precipice of self-disclosure, she realized she held the quill to her narrative. The excitement battling her anxiety propelled a great question to the forefront: what if this exhibition also challenged her viewers to reveal the hidden strengths within themselves? With one last look at the canvas, Evelyn whispered, "Let it be a journey for us all." Just as she was about to lean in to capture the final strokes, a sudden knock echoed from the workshop door. The interruption sent shivers of both apprehension and curiosity through her. Who could it be? Would they be a producer who could propel her art into the world, or a misfit who would undermine her growth? Her heart thudded in her chest as she approached the door, leaving behind her masterpiece, a powerful representation of her soul, now undone. Would the opportunity awaiting her tip the scales toward acceptance or plunge her back into doubt? The moment of truth was upon her. Evelyn opened the door with hesitant curiosity, her pulse quickening as the knob turned beneath her fingers. As she swung the door open, the sudden blinding light framed a figure shrouded in darkness. Relief washed over her when she recognized a familiar silhouette: Jenna, the mentor and artist who had been a steadfast presence in her journey. "Evelyn. I hope I'm not interrupting," Jenna pronounced, stepping forward with her usual buoyancy. Yet, there was something in her eyes, a sharp intensity that caught Evelyn off guard. "Not at all," Evelyn replied, her voice wavering slightly as the door swung shut behind them. The ambience in the studio transformed, filling with unspoken tension that mirrored her inner turmoil. Noticing the brightly splayed colors on the canvas, Jenna smiled knowingly. "Ah, I see you've been hard at work. This is bold. It looks like you poured your heart into it. Evelyn nodded, a rush of emotions tightening in her chest. It feels like I am, but what if it's not good enough? Before she could see the response in Jenna's face, the mentor stepped closer, standing in front of the canvas with an appraising gaze. Good enough is a dangerous term, Evelyn. Art isn't about perfection, it's about honesty. What do you feel? The very question cut deep, sending waves of anxiety rolling through her. I feel vulnerable. Exposed. What if they think I'm inadequate? What if they judge me? Fear is a part of the journey, but don't let it dictate your narrative. Jenna's voice was even, but Evelyn could sense the weight of experience behind it. Evelyn breathed in sharply, the tension in her body began to shift into something more contemplative. Jenna's words floated through her mind, and an echo of her earlier resolve resonated. This was about more than herself. What if showing my vulnerability can inspire others to do the same? Exactly. Art has the potential to provoke change. It opens dialogues that matter. Jenna turned, focusing back on the splashes of cerulean, yellow, and indigo swirling on the canvas. But even as Jenna spoke, doubts gnawed at Evelyn, each one valid yet suffocating. What if they don't connect with it? What if I fail to communicate my message? Failure isn't the absence of connection, it's the absence of trying. Jenna stepped back, eyes fixed on Evelyn. You have a voice, and it's your duty to share it. You might not always reach every heart, but those you do reach can change everything. Evelyn shifted her weight, a cocktail of determination and lingering uncertainty coiling in her gut. Jenna's unwavering confidence fueled her resolve but also magnified her fears. Could she genuinely transform her insecurities into a currency of empowerment? Tell me, Jenna pressed gently, what you want this piece to achieve. She hesitated, heart pounding as she gathered words. I want them to feel it, the chaos, the beauty, the struggle. I want them to see that we're all in this together, trying to make sense of our existence. A small smile crept across Jenna's face, and it settled like a warm embrace. Then let it be that. Create room for the dialogue, and let them witness your process. Evelyn's resolve solidified yet again, drawing strength from Jenna's conviction. She stepped back to the canvas, feeling the pulse of her artwork resonate deeper than ever. But even as control surged, uncertainty clawed at her. There was so much at stake. The competition loomed like a shadow over her impending decision. Whispers of anticipated judgment crept into her thoughts again. What if I fail? She whispered, almost to herself. Failure is only a stepping stone, Evelyn. The time has come to face that fear head-on. Jenna's tone shifted, sharpening her focus. A surge of adrenaline coursed through Evelyn. The challenge was palpable. She instinctively knew this moment could define her trajectory as an artist. But a new question bubbled to the forefront: was she prepared to sacrifice peace for authenticity? Just as she considered the implications of her decision, Jenna stepped away, nodding toward the door. There's a gallery showing tomorrow. It would be a perfect place to unveil your work. Are you ready? Evelyn's breath caught, the invitation spinning in her mind. Tomorrow. Her heart raced at the thought, the opportunity to shift from creator to revelator. This was it. But doubt whispered again, paralyzing her. Could she truly embrace the potential for both vulnerability and strength in front of an audience? Or would she merely expose herself to ridicule, returning to the shadows once more? She glanced at her canvas, a flood of indecision flooding in once again. The moment pulsed with imminent potential, leaving her teetering on the edge of a decision that could change everything. Would she step into the light, or retreat into the shadow of fear? Evelyn stood in the stillness, the hum of her thoughts drowning out the vibrant colors of her canvas. Each brushstroke felt heavier, a weight of expectation draping over her shoulders. As Jenna's words echoed like a mantra in her mind, she tried to sift through the turmoil. Was this truly about showcasing her art, or was she on the precipice of unveiling parts of herself she had long concealed? When Jenna had first entered, there had been a flicker of possibility, an ember of excitement. Yet now, with the notion of a gallery showing tethered to the reality of it all, that ember transformed into a wildfire of anxiety. The judgment of others loomed as a monstrous specter, ready to pounce on her every vulnerability. It wasn't just about the canvas, it was about bearing her soul. Breathing deeply, Evelyn wiped her palms on her apron, feeling the fabric's familiar texture, a grounding point amidst the storm of emotions. She recalled her initial excitement when painting this piece, each color representing a facet of her journey, the chaos of her upbringing, the beauty of her dreams, and the struggle of her self-doubt. Now those colors seemed like weights dragging her into the depths. What if they don't understand? She muttered, her voice cracking, a cry for reassurance lost in the vastness of the studio. Yet, as she turned back to Jenna, she saw an unwavering certainty in her mentor's gaze. You can't control how others perceive you, Evelyn. But you can control the authenticity of your work, Jenna responded, her posture fiercely confident. Evelyn felt a flicker of rebellion stirring within her. Maybe there was something powerful about this impending decision, something transformative. She owed it to herself to explore this fear, the fear of judgment, the fear of vulnerability. Moments of great growth rarely came wrapped in comfort. All right, she finally replied, her tone steadying. I'll do it. I'll show my work tomorrow. The words tasted liberating, even as they birthed new anxieties. Excellent, Evelyn. Now let us prepare. With that, Jenna rolled up her sleeves, and together, they began strategizing. It was about more than just art, it was about crafting a message. What would her narrative convey? As the sun dipped low in the sky, golden hues streamed through the studio windows, casting shadows that danced across the artwork. The studio became alive with their discussions, Jenna's insights on storytelling in art, Evelyn's reflections on what it meant to reveal her truth. Piece by piece, they molded a personal strategy that encapsulated her vision. Remember, Jenna emphasized, it's not just the art. It's how you articulate your journey. The reminder ignited a flame within Evelyn. Yes, the art represented her past struggles, but it also encapsulated her present resolve. She needed to prepare herself not to face just critics but an audience that would witness everything she was, each flaw, each strength, all interwoven into a collective human experience. That night, as she meticulously worked on her presentation, Evelyn felt a shift. The rawness of her fears transformed into powerful motivation. She began to find ways to communicate her feelings without holding back, sweat beading her brow as she grasped the weight of authenticity. Each line she wrote about the intent behind her art acted like a bridge between her emotional core and the audience's hearts, yet beneath that newfound empowerment, a twinge of doubt nagged at her. What if, in her journey of discovery, she unveiled parts of herself she couldn't reclaim? With the sunset fading and the vibrant colors of her canvas healing her wounds, Evelyn felt both exhilarated and terrified. In the silence of the studio, she ran her fingers over the texture of her work, wondering what nightmarish scenarios might unfold at the gallery. Would it incite admiration, ridicule, or indifference? Tomorrow loomed, an uncharted territory with the potential for both triumph and disillusionment. Would she find strength in her vulnerability, or would it consume her altogether? As she turned off the lights, leaving the studio, her heart raced with anticipation, confronting the truth that was now so close yet so terrifying. The question of who she might truly become hung in the air as she stepped into the night, ignited by a blend of fear, hope, and relentless determination. Could she embrace the power of her narrative and step into the light for all to see? The moment of truth was almost here, and she had just begun to understand its implications. Evelyn awoke with the dawn's light streaming through her bedroom window, illuminating the remnants of her fears, still heavy in the air. The stillness of the morning contrasted sharply with the storm brewing within her. Today, she would step into the gallery, bearing not just her art but the raw essence of who she was: an artist, a storyteller, a woman vulnerable yet resilient. Her heart pounded a frantic rhythm, a tambourine signaling both dread and excitement. As she prepared for the day, her reflection in the mirror reminded her of a person on the brink of transformation. She adorned herself with a vibrant scarf, a recurring motif in her art, a symbol of defiance against the fear that sought to undermine her confidence. Each knot she tied was an act of resolve, asserting that her voice would matter. Today, the studio felt charged when she arrived, shadows intertwining with the artwork waiting to be unveiled. As she unpacked her paintings, Evelyn felt an echo of her worries flutter at the edges of her mind. But alongside that doubt flickered a clarity she had never grasped before: the urgency to own her story. She was done hiding. Jenna entered, her eyes bright with anticipation. "Remember, it's about sharing your truth," she reiterated. "Yes, but what if no one gets it?" Evelyn countered, her voice steady but laced with uncertainty. Jenna placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Art is subjective, but your authenticity shines through when you speak from the heart. Trust in what you create." Evelyn took a deep breath, absorbing Jenna's words. What if she didn't need validation? What if expressing herself took precedence over their judgment? As guests began to filter into the gallery later that evening, the atmosphere shifted. The once sterile space transformed with each person who lingered, the hum of conversations blending with the visual symphony of her work. Nervous energy coursed through her veins, but a resolute flame burned stronger. When Jenna gestured for her to approach the crowd, Evelyn felt gravity pulling her closer. With each step, the ground felt both familiar and foreign, every heartbeat marking a passage into something unknown. As she cleared her throat, she recalled the messages she had written the night before: the essays on vulnerability and strength, the letters to her younger self, and the manifestations of her artistic journey. "Thank you all for being here," she began, her voice barely lifting above the chatter yet resonating like a bell. "Today, I'm not merely sharing my art, I'm sharing pieces of my life and the tumultuous journey that brought me here." A wave of silence washed over the crowd as they finally turned their attention toward her, a pivotal moment in her burgeoning career. She sensed the weight of their stares, not as daggers but as a canvas for her expression. She continued, "These paintings represent my struggles and triumphs, my fears and dreams. I invite you to see beyond the colors and strokes. See the narrative, my narrative." Something inside her shifted. Evelyn no longer sought approval, instead, she sought connection. She spoke about the inspiration behind each painting, the emotions that had shaped them, and vulnerability became her ally as she layered her truths upon the audience. Somewhere along the way, her anxiety transformed into fierce determination, and adrenaline propelled her through each revelation. However, as she glanced around the room, she caught a couple of skeptical expressions. Their brows furrowed as she shared her story, one of doubt, isolation, and, ultimately, triumph. The familiar twinge of fear gripped her, a haunting reminder that not everyone would resonate with her truth. Just as quickly, though, she draped that fear in the cloak of resilience, fueling her inside. Could it be that even rejection carried its lessons? What if every voice, every critique, was an opportunity to refine her journey? There, amid vulnerability and expectation, her inner strength defied the risks. Evelyn reached the conclusion of her speech, heart racing, thoughts racing. We are all stories in progress, and that includes my own unfolding, evolving, and deserving of love. Applause erupted, but it felt less about her art and more about the connection she had forged. Just as she began to feel the thrill of acceptance, she noticed a familiar face in the crowd, one that filled her with both dread and excitement. Would this encounter fundamentally challenge her resolve, or grant her the affirmation she sought? As she made her way through the crowd, the intersection of fear and possibility hung heavy in the air. She was determined to embrace whatever was to come, knowing that her greatest work was not yet finished. It was just beginning. Evelyn's heart raced as she navigated through the crowd, her inner turmoil caught in a constant oscillation between excitement and apprehension. The familiar face belonged to her former mentor, Marcus, a once encouraging presence who had also been a fierce critic in moments of vulnerability. He stood slightly aloof, an enigma of crossed arms and penetrating gaze, evoking a rush of memories that flooded her mind, critiques she had internalized as wounds rather than lessons. As she approached him, the cacophony of the gallery dimmed. The warmth she had felt while addressing the audience vanished as if an invisible cloak had wrapped tightly around her throat. Would he acknowledge the progress she had made or simply dismiss her as an aspiring artist still caught in her youthful naivete? "Evelyn," he greeted, his tone void of sentiment. "I didn't expect to see you here. Your work, well, it's definitely a departure from what I remember." The weight of those words hung heavily in the air. Did he mean it as a compliment? Was he merely pointing out what he perceived as a lack of refinement? She gritted her teeth to maintain her composure, refusing to let her disappointment seep into her voice. "I'm glad you made it, Marcus. I've poured my heart into these pieces." "Your heart, yes, but," he paused, his gaze drifting to a canvas dominated by a swirl of colors that intersected almost chaotically. "Do you think they're ready to be on display? I mean, your technique has always been interesting." His choice of words knotted her insides, aching to rebut his judgment, but she reinforced her resolve. "They're not just about technique, they embody my story, my truth. Isn't that what art is really about?" She anticipated a patronizing smile or a dismissive shrug. Instead, he met her gaze, an unexpected flicker of respect dancing in his eyes. This small victory ignited an ember of courage within her. Perhaps her evolution wasn't just about learning technique but about understanding the deeper currents that weaved through her soul. "You've changed," he said, almost begrudgingly. "You're more assertive. It suits you." The words were paradoxical, conveying both challenge and recognition. Evelyn took a breath, allowing the remark to settle like soft rain on parched earth. "I've realized that fear molds art just as much as skill. Embracing that has been my most important lesson. Art is subjective. Expanding your voice can be a double-edged sword, though. Are you ready for criticism?" With clarity settling in her chest, she nodded resolutely. "Every critique is an opportunity. Perhaps you can help me see where I can better refine my work." In that moment, Evelyn felt the shift, the recognition that vulnerability could coexist with strength. This encounter had transformed from dread to an unexpected source of growth. She felt empowered, ready to embrace the uncertainties of feedback and to reflect further on her evolving identity as an artist. As she moved back through the gallery, her resolve was unyielding. Every brushstroke, every color would resonate with authenticity, shedding light on her soul's struggles. Perhaps Marcus's skepticism could become a tool not for self-doubt, but for deeper introspection. Later that night, alone in her studio, she gazed at her latest paintings, colors merging into a vibrant pulse. Inspired, she picked up her brush, ready to infuse each canvas with the lessons she had gathered from the evening. What began as fear was now a catalyst for exploration, a question brewing in the depths of her consciousness: how far could she take this artistic journey if she embraced every facet of her story, including those doubts suggested by others? With each stroke, she felt alive, ready to unearth hidden strengths she hadn't tapped into before. The world awaited her next revelation, and she was poised to discover it. What would her next work reveal about the interplay of acceptance and self-doubt, and how would she confront the lingering shadows that sometimes clouded her path? Determined, she dipped her brush into the paint, knowing that every story told could carve a new chapter. Evelyn woke early the next morning, the sun filtering through the large windows of her studio. The light danced on her canvases, casting vibrant hues across the room. She felt a renewed sense of purpose as she slowly moved through her space, each artwork awakening her internal dialogue. The encounter with Marcus lingered in her mind, a mix of challenge and unexpected validation that charged her with a new urgency to push her artistic boundaries. She brewed coffee and leaned against her kitchen counter, gazing at the pieces scattered around. They reflected not just her artistic journey but also her emotional struggles, the insecurities she layered onto the canvas along with the strokes of her brush. Her focus sharpened, she was ready to dive deeper. Today, she would confront her internal conflicts and channel them into something transformative. Setting down her coffee, she opened her laptop, searching for artist critiques online. She recalled Marcus's words about her readiness for feedback. Her pulse quickened at the thought of exposing her work to strangers, but it fueled her determination. She decided to submit her latest pieces to an online art critique community known for its rigorous evaluations. Would this motivate her to evolve further? As she compiled her submissions, her thoughts slipped back to her insecurities. What if her work didn't receive the recognition she desired? The potential for judgment hung in the air, but she pushed through the uncertainty, crafting descriptions that explained her intention behind each piece. This was not merely about garnering approval, it was about inviting conversation around her truth. By the end of the day, Evelyn felt both electrified and drained. She had engaged with a community of artists, racked up questions and comments, each illuminating her work through new perspectives. The excitement of sharing her journey outweighed the fear of potential criticism. Here was where growth sprouted. It promised her an evolution that had previously seemed remote. That evening, she decided to reflect on her response to criticism through a new canvas. On it, she'd embody her journey of confronting self-doubt and acceptance. She squeezed more paint onto her palette than usual, eager to explore her emotions freely. As her brush glided across the canvas, she delved deeper into expressive strokes, intertwining frustration and hope. Each touch became a meditation on acceptance, visualizing the struggle she faced as she combined contrasting colors, a dance of light and shadow mirroring the abyss of doubt and the brilliance of resilience. Pastel colors fused with darker tones, representing her past friction merging with newfound clarity. The swirling forms on the surface felt alive, pushing her to question everything she had known about herself and her art. Where once stood just a depiction of self-doubt, now arose a kaleidoscope manifesting her truths, the fluidity of her journey, complexities woven into vibrant stories. As the night deepened, Evelyn stepped back, her heart pounding. The canvas showcased not just art but her evolution, each color a different aspect of her life, every jagged line a moment of struggle. Her aspirations were stitched together within the worlds she crafted. For the first time, she saw herself not merely as an artist but as a storyteller, sharing her struggles through tangible expressions. She couldn't shake the feeling of anticipation that rippled through her as she admired her creation. The submission would come soon enough, but what if the responses widened her understanding beyond her own perception? What if she uncovered strengths within her that she had buried beneath layers of doubt? As she contemplated her next steps, a spark ignited within her. The call for exploration demanded to be answered. What awaited her in this new chapter of growth? With a determined spirit, she whispered to herself, "It's time to illuminate the shadows." Tomorrow, she would delve even deeper into the vulnerability that had previously paralyzed her. It was time to take the plunge and face the unseen depths of her artistic potential. Would she unearth something transformative that would reshape her reality? Evelyn stood before her latest creation, the vibrant chaos of colors illuminating the depths she had courageously explored. The canvas before her reflected more than artistry, it showcased her transformation. Once a timid bearer of burdens, she had evolved into a formidable storyteller, each brushstroke a testament to her journey. The previously suffocating weight of expectations had melted away, replaced by a powerful sense of purpose. The gallery showing had been a turning point, enveloping her in a wave of validation and connection. Each conversation sparked by her work deepened her belief in the power of vulnerability, enabling her to realize that her art resonated far beyond her immediate experience. As she examined the intricate strokes that created stories of grief and perseverance, she felt a fantastical rush of pride. The culmination of months of introspection had finally crystallized. With palpable confidence, Evelyn prepared to submit her work to a prominent national exhibition. It was a chance not only to showcase her art but to connect with a broader audience eager for authentic narratives. The submission process was more than a professional step, it was a declaration of personal victory over her insecurities. Creating her application felt exhilarating, even as self-doubt chimed in with familiar trepidation. But this time, she recognized that doubt as an integral part of her growth rather than a barrier. The moment she pressed submit, a rush of adrenaline surged through her. She had allowed herself to dream boldly, to step into the realm of possibility. In doing so, Evelyn confronted the previously unthinkable. She had cultivated a space in her art where vulnerability was not feared but embraced. That realization had unlocked a layer of confidence she never knew existed. Weeks passed long enough for anticipation to churn in her stomach, and then the email arrived. Evelyn could scarcely breathe as she opened it. There, in crisp black and white, her acceptance into the exhibition glimmered on the screen, a sweet vindication of her journey. Tears prickled at the corners of her eyes, but they were not tears of despair, they were tears of acknowledgement. She had achieved something tangible, a recognition that she was worthy of being seen, her story worthy of being shared. Rehearsing her presence at the exhibition, she recognized how far she had come. The Evelyn who had once shunned recognition now emerged as a fierce advocate for authenticity. As she gathered her courage to prepare for the opening night, every brushstroke and every conversation at the gallery replayed in her mind. Her art had transformed from a quiet reflection to a bold challenge, the invitation for others to reckon with their own stories. In the days leading up to the event, Evelyn delved deeper into her reasons for creating. It was no longer just about showcasing her talent but about fostering dialogue. How could she help others feel emboldened to explore their stories within the narrative she had so efficiently crafted? The vibrant colors on the canvas now intertwined with elements of motivation, enveloped in messages of empowerment and resilience. On exhibition day, as she stood before her pieces amidst the gentle hum of conversation, a hush fell as she shared her journey with eager attendees. Evelyn felt the stirrings of connection through laughter, through nods of understanding. It was everything she had desired. The vulnerability that once felt like exposure now formed a bridge to collective experience. Evelyn's hands shook slightly as she prepared to speak. Slightly apprehensive, she realized that fear no longer paralyzed her, rather, it urged her to embrace the moment fully. Art allows us to tackle what lies beneath the surface, she revealed to her audience, who hung on her words. And in my journey, I found strength through vulnerability. I invite you to explore your own truths with the same courage. Recognition came not only through applause but in the eyes of strangers connecting with her words, the achievement of a lifelong dream. In that moment, Evelyn saw herself reflected back in their acceptance, solidifying her newfound confidence. She had not only conquered her fears but had fostered an environment where vulnerability was celebrated. Triumph surged within her, a deep satisfaction settled into her bones. At that moment, she knew she had transformed her life and her art into a lighthouse for others navigating their own storms. Evelyn stepped away from her canvas, not retreating from the gallery's brilliance but standing firmly in her established position as an artist, a storyteller, and a symbol of reclamation. This was her moment of triumph. She had fully emerged from the tapestry of her past, recognizing her unique voice and the profound effect it could have. With that clear realization, Evelyn smiled, understanding that this was only the beginning of her storytelling journey. As the exhibition came to life, she embraced each moment, knowing she had not simply transformed her art but also inspired others to uncover their hidden strengths. The vibrant tapestry of her life had finally found its rightful place on the canvas of the world. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories, leave a like now to feed the algorithm, comment your reactions and theories about the ending, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share. Only true fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.